Hello everyone, it's me Nick the Brick, and today I'll be ranking all Lego Ninjago seasons with Rayzone 11. And that beautiful thumbnail is from Top 10 Ninjago. And now, let's get into it.
Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu. Even the name is pretty bad. It's called Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, but we barely knew anything about it. Why it was created, how it was created, who exactly used it. The only secrets this season revealed is how to make a season that is awful in every single direction and only good in making you hate it. I think that the season should have been called Secrets of the Filler episodes. It's ridiculously filled with pointless, boring filler. If I'll make a top 10 worst Ninjago episodes, all of them will be from this season for sure. The filler are just so boring and repetitive, but what's even worse is that they come in between two very important events, which take away from the excitement, even if there was any excitement in this trash season. The 11 minutes idea is one of, if not the worst decision that they have ever made. Literally every single thing in this season is so rushed. Kai's arc, Nia's arc, and even Zane's arc. The fire chapter is a disaster half of it is filler and it was unbelievably childish and filled with plot holes and cringe. The ice chapter is a huge improvement, but it's still pretty bad. Also, for a season about creativity, this is the third time you see Zane sacrificing himself, the second time Nia has an arc about discovering new powers, the fourth time Lloyd has a big role in a row, and all of the side characters are worse versions of older ones. Convenient Sorla is a downgraded version of Mistake, and Aikita is a worse version of Faith. Instead of doing new arcs and creative side characters, all they did is filler and anime episodes that literally nobody cares about. The finale is unbelievably rushed and predictable. Mrs. Revenge and Mr. Revenge are super boring as well, and don't even let me start with the action, that half of it is monsters fights. I still can't believe that they made all of these monster fights and they were like, yeah, whatever, let's cramp all of them in the season. It's already trash. Why should we make creative fights? You know what? Let's just go and make anime episodes. Everybody likes those. This is the only season of the show that was very childish and that was completely void of any emotions. Heck, even season 10 had one sad scene. Overall, this season is a huge failure and it was enough to make many fans leave the show because it didn't just harm itself but did awful changes to the series that are still damaging into this date. 2.5 out of 10.
Hands of Time is such a unique season, but it ended up being a flop. Time Twins are really good villains, but they kinda got messed up, as a lot of the other potentially good things in the season. The Vermilions are very lame, and again they're something snake related which we saw a million times before. Also, all of the ninja besides Sky and Nia feel pretty disappointing to be honest. The backstory of Maya and Ray is pretty good, and we also see some other elemental masters, which is pretty nice. Season 7 was supposed to be the end of the series, as well as Season 2 was, but this wasn't the case because of the huge fan demand. If it really would be the finale of the show, it would have been much better, as we saw with the Tommy Andreessen Twitter post. It's safe to say that 2017 was a pretty bad year for Ninjago, 3.5 out of 10.
The final battle is the most overrated thing in Ninjago. When you think about it, it's full of plot holes and the four ninja did nothing and the villain is so bad. The villain, the Overlord is my third least favorite Ninjago character. Everything in his character is bad. He's characterless, arrogant, boring, super ultra boring, annoying, and not emotional at all. I hate the first half, but it's still way better than the second. The finale was very predictable and boring. I mean, the fight that we were waiting for from the beginning of the season just started and ended in 3 minutes. The ninja were so boring, they were pretty cheap just to train Lloyd. Lloyd played the role of the MacGuffin chosen one. She's pretty boring and people complain about Lloyd stealing the spotlight in season 8 to 11. I forget what he did in season 2. Overall, this season is pretty bad as well, and it was very lazy written and filled with plot holes and filler, and the concept itself is pretty boring and was done in trillions of shows, so the chances of this one being a standout are pretty low, and what's even worse is that they didn't even try. 3.5 out of 10.
March of the Oni is the shortest actual Ninjago season to date, with 4 episodes, and it has its pros and cons. I think the concept with Oni and all of that was great, but I feel like it should have been much longer. Garmadon is really awesome during the season. I mean, it's the last time we see him, so I'm not surprised since he was the main villain in past 2 seasons. There's not really much to say about ninja characters for episodes, but the whole season seems very repetitive with all of these golden weapons and stuff like that. And there's something that I think is the stupidest thing they ever did in the series. The way everybody can hold golden armor is hilarious since it's made out of 4 golden weapons. The cold fall would have been good, but it was so messed up. Writers just removed their jutsu since it was too overpowered, but then they mentioned that it's still a thing in season 12, which makes it even worse. He just fell from a terrible height, landed on the ground in the fog of the Oni, if you call it like that, without any injuries and without turning into the rock. So yeah, pretty better but pretty similar case to the Hands of Time. A lot of potential but wasted terribly. 6 out of 10.
Rebooted is a good season. My main problem with it is that it destroyed half of the ninja team, with the main villains being so bad. You already know how much I hate the Overlord. He's just as boring as a rock, and yeah. Pyther coming back was a cool twist, and though Encryptor isn't that bad. But the Ninjoids are yet another army. Also, the stupid love triangle, the second worst arc in the entire show. I don't know why that thing even exists. It's super annoying throughout the season and makes no sense at all. It take all three ninja completely out of character, especially Cole. He's very honorable and understandable person, and he knows that Jay and Nia are together. There is no way he'll even try to ruin that. And Nia played an extremely silly role. Also, there was a lot of bad humor and weird dialogue. But the best thing about the season is how creative it is, and it does its best to not be boring. You have an episode in the Digiverse, one episode in space, one episode with the Serpentine. It's really diverse. Also, the finale was pretty good, super overrated because literally Zane's sacrifice and Memorial was like 25% of the episode, and the rest, 75, was pretty slow with the ninja escaping from space and everything. So Zane's sacrifice was good. It's far from being the saddest scene for me, but it's good. But it's good enough. Overall, this was a good season. I'm sure if they had more time to make it, it would have turned out to be way better. But what we got isn't that bad at all. 7 out of 10.
Season 1 is such a classic, people consider it to be the most iconic Ninjago season. I mean, can you blame them? It's the first actual season. It had pretty good villains, especially Scales and Pyter. It's also pretty long of a season, but all episodes are enjoyable. We got more of Garmadon, which became the most iconic Ninjago villain to date. The way Lloyd becomes Green Ninja is a good twist, but I would appreciate if someone else of the OG Ninja, or even Nia, would become Green. 5 Ninja feels perfect, so having 6 is a bit unnecessary, to be honest. Ultra Dragon was great, but it would have been better if they would include it in more seasons. But that's not that big of a deal. It's a great season, but I also think that it might be because of the nostalgia. 7 out of 10.
The reason to why a lot of people love Pramipar is because after the disaster season 11, everybody had low hopes for this one, but it ended up being good, so a lot of people went crazy. This season fixed some problems season 11 did. Not all of them, not most of them, but thankfully the next season, season 13, fixed all of them. Anyways, this season still had a very rushed ending. Okay, humor, extremely repetitive action, and an underdeveloped villain, but amazing concepts, great side characters, no filler, and no childish episodes or dialogue. But the biggest problem with this season is that it was supposed to be Jay's season, but I feel like it's like a side character season. Jay literally got focused on only one episode, and it's the last one. Other than that, he was just exactly playing the same role as the others. Okino and Racer 7 and Milton Dyers got way more development and screen time than Jay, which was really disappointing. And that's not only a problem with Jay, but all the ninja. Nobody had an arc or a story in this season, which was something that never happened in Ninjago. Also, I feel like we should have seen more episodes like episode 12 where the ninja are trying to pass some levels or something, instead of boring repetitive red visors fights in every episode. Origami had amazing motives and backstory which were super unique and interesting, but his conclusion was really bad. It literally took Dyers a few minutes to completely change him from bad to good, which was very illogical. Overall, a good season and fixed some problems, but still had a lot and created its own problems. 7 out of 10.
Skybound is a really perfect season no one talks about. Well, that might be because most of it didn't actually happen. Jokes aside, it really has such a perfect feel, which makes it much different from the other seasons. The Nedakan is one of my favorite Ninjago villains for sure. Also, I love the Gym Blade concept. It really makes season even better. The Sky Pirates are really good and they are very well made characters you don't forget compared to some mediocre villain armies. Also, I really like the fact that Dublon knew how to use Binjitsu, which made the character so special. We also see more of Skylar and some of the other side characters, which is really good. as we don't see them too much. And to spice things up, we got a bad side of Ronin, which was very enjoyable. Hekusein was an interesting concept, but it felt a bit unnecessary. The thing that also stands out a lot is Jay and Nia relationship, which was the best part of Jaya ship to me. And with the awesome final battle, it very well deserves 8.5 for sure.
Season 9 is a very unique season because it's the only season where you won't understand anything from without watching the previous one. It's both a bad and good thing. Bad because you just want to watch the season, but no, you are forced to watch the previous one. And good because season 8 is fantastic and it's great to see the next season connected to it. I personally prefer the first realm story, and I know that's very unpopular, but opinions, because it feels more original and exciting, and a story where we never saw Ninjago, but the resistance part isn't that original. This season surprised me because you are telling two huge stories at the same time, so I feel like one of them will feel rushed, and the other won't, but both got an equal amount of focus. The ending was really cool, and I enjoyed seeing Lloyd regaining his powers. Garmadon was fantastic in here. He was super evil. The scene where he literally killed Mr. E was horrifying, and his relationship with Harumi was so cool and dark. This season took so many risks by killing a lot of named characters in and off screen and making Garmadon completely evil, which was so amazing and something we always hoped for but never saw in Garmadon. Overall, a very creative season and so dark as well. 9 out of 10. Who doesn't like Moro? Who doesn't like the Ghost Web? Who doesn't like the darker tone of the season? This is the first truly dark Ninjago season. I love how the season isn't afraid to take risks and do long lasting effects on the characters, like transforming Cole into a ghost, which still is one of the best twists Ninjago has ever done. Cause it was completely unexpected and amazing character development for Cole. It was just a fantastic move. Also killing Garmadon, which was great for both his and Lloyd's characters. Moore is a fan favorite villain. I don't know if he or Harumi is the most popular, but he's amazing. When you know his motivations, you will be like, you are 100% right, Moro. And if I were in your place, I would have done even worse. And it's really hard to write a villain like this, but nothing is hard for the Hegmans. Ronan is one of my favorite side characters. It's just so unique. You don't know if he's evil or good, which is really unique, and his personality is amazing. It was good to see the original 4 again with no powers. It was really nostalgic. Nia became a ninja, which was good, and her story was really interesting and great development for her. Season 5 is probably the most important season of the show because it did the most amount of permanent changes to the series, with telling things from the past like the 16 realms. Overall, the darker tone, the risks, the legendary villain, the great finale, and the great storyline made season 5 one of the best seasons of the show. 9.5 out of 10.
Master of Mountain is the newest season of Ninjago, but something that a ton of fans were looking for was an actual season for Cole, and we actually got it. A lot of people say that the beginning wasn't the best, but I found it more than satisfying. Also, we don't see Pixel almost at all, which is very odd. Speaking of unpopular opinions, we get the brand new villain called School Sorcerer, who is one of the best Ninjago villains in my opinion. He's just so badass. Also, the new character that gets a lot of attention is Princess Venia, and she definitely deserves it, since she's one of the best Ninjago side characters I've ever seen. The Apply were great kind of filler characters. I mean, the enemy story was totally unnecessary, but hey, at least it was high quality filler if you care. The geckos and the mats were good, definitely got some Chima vibes, which was great. Also, humor in the season is the best in a long time. It really doesn't feel as childish as it does some of the newer seasons. The thing that excites me even more was the fact that we got more of Wu. At first I thought this would be his last season, but however we see that he's getting older and weaker. The Cole's character was really on fire. This season made him even more amazing of a character than he was before. The story of her mom was great, of his mom, and the flashbacks were really heartbreaking, and I'm glad they didn't brought her back or something, because that was just enough. The final battle was epic, definitely one of the better finales in the series. The Spinjitzu burst was great, but sets were inaccurate as well as Wu's Battle Dragon, which is just a bigger version of Jumpy, but it's okay. We are talking about the actual season here. However, definitely a perfect season you don't want to miss out on. It definitely gets 9.5 out of 10 for sure. Tournament of Elements is such a perfect season that really took the show one step above. Pretty much has everything you need for a perfect season. Great villain, new characters, and of course an amazing storyline. We got so many great new characters, and with the best one of course being Skylar. It's such a shame we haven't got too much of her after the season, except Hunted of course. And hey, you also need some top tier side characters, I guess. The season is focused on Kai, which added with even more greatness to him. And finally, Lloyd doesn't have too much focus at all, since he was the main star in first two seasons. Also, I think Jay and Cole were outstanding comparing them to the childish events in season 3. Ninja reuniting was great after the tragic Zane sacrifice. The fact how they brought Zane back was a bit lame, but I totally understand that they didn't want to waste such a good character that was loved by fans. It's super action-packed season without any filler, which makes it so good. Definitely the season that has almost no hate at all, and definitely deserves 9.8 out of 10. Sons of Garmadon was a really huge surprise to be sure, but a very welcome one. It was the first season after the terrible Ninjago movie nobody wants to talk about. The thing that really made a lot of original fans go away was the new design of the ninja. Honestly, I didn't like them either, but they started growing on me. Personally, I think only Lloyd needed a change, but whatever. And surprisingly enough, we got few minutes long sneak peek around Ninjago movies, so that made a lot of fans even more excited. In the season, we get amazing villains called Sons of Garmadon. They are gang in Ninjago City trying to resurrect Garmadon in his evil form. The script of the season is also more than perfect, with super fresh, good, and very dark ideas. But probably the highlight of the season is, of course, Harumi. She's such a perfect villain, and her reveal was probably the best Ninjago plot twist to date. Also, I'm grateful we saw her backstory with the great revolver and everything. And also, the characters also stands up a lot is Cole. His character went uphill, which made him my favorite ninja. Sadly, that cost the characters of Jay and Kai, but it's okay since they are better and better every season from now on. Also, we got the best version of Lloyd in my opinion. His relationship with Harumi was so genius, but sadly, he gets every new waifu like every season, which is very repetitive. And the way how they brought back Wu is also pretty clever, which shows even more in the next season. And I think it's the first Ninjago season with dark ending, which made it really amazing. But overall, together, I think it's easily the best Ninjago season to date. A bit better than season 4, but still 9.8 out of 10.